This is the story of how I became China's biggest foreign movie villain, and then my career tanked in like a year because of AI.
会说中文，那你听清楚，双方的座位安排都是我们同美方共同商定的，而且已经商定很久了。
别以为我不懂，在你们文化中，坐北朝南才是常州的坐北。
So my story started off about 10 years ago. Oh wait, let me just hook you in a little bit. So this is going to get good. You may have seen some of my work. Actually, the weirdest thing is I could walk around this park and I would struggle to find a Chinese person who hasn't seen me in a movie, and that is, well, that it technically is a flex, but I'm not saying it to flex. I've been in the biggest Chinese movies. You can see a couple of these, like Detective Chinatown was this huge big comedy movie.
You. Come here, please.
It came out last year. I've done like 5 or 6 movies last year. A bunch of them were these big war, like propaganda movies, to be honest.
Oh, hey, you know what? You know the Japanese flag? It also has a sun. It's not a son. It's a son of a bitch.
My breakout role was I played a American bad guy. He was a negotiator in the Korean War, and I played this like snarky kind of guy, and that blew up, and I got 8 million views, 10 across everything, about people commenting, saying on social media, saying that they wanted to track me down to where I was abroad at the time and like beat me up, or like, you know, oh, I've got some special treats from my hometown that I want to send you. What's your address? So I was literally getting jokey death threats because of my portrayal of an American war negotiator during the Korean War. So it's been a bit of an up and down story, and maybe it all goes back to, weirdly, how I came out here was, in a way, it was to avoid acting, because I was really into acting when I was at university. I studied at UCL, but basically the entire time I was in London, I was doing comedy, I was doing drama, all that kind of stuff, and I managed to get an offer at a pretty good drama school in LA, or I had an offer to study Chinese in China. And like a lot of things in life, for better or for worse, I tried to go towards the place where there's less likely to be unhappy. I thought if I go to LA to be an actor, I will most likely not be an actor. I'll be a waiter. I will be waiting tables. I'll be doing something like that. I didn't really have it in me. I didn't genuinely love the craft enough to do that, you know, working actor, struggle through it, like have some apartment in New York or in LA, like sharing with a bunch of people and grinding. I was like, fuck that. Or I could study Chinese in China and see where that goes. And I did. So actually I came to China to kill the acting dream. But weirdly, I came out here, the job I had, that's another story, but my first acting role was, they wanted a Spanish guy. I'm obviously the least Spanish looking guy. I'm like caked up in sun cream right now just to like survive out here for 1 second. I'm from Northern Ireland, very not Spanish, but the role had Spanish lines. I spoke a bit of Spanish, and it was kind of quirky enough, and I thought, well, not that many people speak the language, so I felt like I'm gonna go for it. And then all of a sudden, I was acting opposite this huge star in China for my first role, and it was pretty intoxicating.
Can you speak English?
¿No entiendes lo que quiero decir? No entienden nada. Los chinos no hablan español, solo hablan inglés. Dios míos.
And the director was like, oh wow, like, you're really an actor. And at the time I was really flattered by that, but then later I realized that it's because most people who do acting in China, or maybe they're English teachers, or they're not actually like trained as I was, or was genuinely like passionate about it. So it's like, oh, I am an actor. But I think he maybe meant that in terms of relative to the standards that there are in China. I don't mean that with no shade. I mean, people having a go at it, pretty similar to me. I mean, I don't have the qualification. But anyway, I'm chatting shit about people. I don't mean that. But you know what I mean? There's less of a market here, different standards, which I think really marks a lot of my bittersweet feelings towards my kind of career here in China, where I've had, you know, lots of lines in this huge, you know, Korean War movie where I'm acting opposite these really huge stars, like they're A-list tier stars in China. And then past 6 months, I've had no acting, like no movie acting, no TV show acting, none of that. I have stuff that I can freelance and I can get by. I pay my rent, but it was this surreal thing of like kind of working for the Chinese propaganda machine, grinding my way to the top, and then just bam. I was invited to movie premieres. I mean, I'll try to throw some pictures up here, but I was getting little shout outs where I could interact with the stars and stuff. Of course, I had to like send the script of everything I was going to say in advance. It's very strict like that in China, but I had those kind of opportunities, so I really felt like I'm breaking through. And also, I had quirky opportunities. Some people, you may have seen me on the Tencent propaganda, which was propaganda, whoops, Freudian slip. Tencent, actually it's my one non-propaganda series, so that's not Freudian. The Third Body Problem, I shot that with Tencent, that's a Chinese production company, but it was bought by Peacock. So I'm on there, I'm on Peacock, and I played a Chinese-speaking flamboyant Da Vinci.
我是达芬奇。他说的是3克胎药，不是2克。你这个笨蛋！哦，别碰我！
That was kind of fun. I mean, where else in the world can I play these roles that are, speaking Chinese, that are these, just I can show such a range of whatever limited acting skills I have. So that's been something that's kept me going through this weird journey. One of my first like biggest roles, I was in a movie called Changjinhu, which was the Battle of Changjin Lake, and that was kind of nuts. I mean, I feel like every single foreigner in China at the time, because it happened during COVID, was in that movie. I had a tiny role. I remember my line was roughly like, Chairman Mao is so big and scary, are you not afraid of him? Which, that line does give me a little bit of a chuckle, because I can just imagine in the 50s in America, where my history is a bit shaky, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of like anti-Reds and anti-communist kind of vibes, right? And somebody just being like, hey, but aren't we gonna lose to those big powerful communists? Like, that was just like funny, the idea that someone would say that about their own team, and that I was saying that as an American journalist, but that was a good line. Had a good chuckle at that. But yeah, that was like the biggest, at the time, was the biggest grossing Chinese movie ever, which is kind of nuts. And yeah, I felt like I was kind of blessed. I had these other opportunities where, I mean, I don't want this whole video to be me name dropping, but I was with Xiao Zhan, who's a huge megastar. I'm trying to think what the equivalent would be of him in the West, but he's hugely up there. It was me and him shooting an ad for Qingdao beer.
消费者相伴，与世界传递中国情谊。
This is somebody singing in the background. I'm in a park here. This isn't like a soundtrack I've added later. This is just China noises happening. So yeah, it's a bit bittersweet. I always, like, I tell my friends that I've built a real sandcastle here in China. It looks kind of pretty, but at the same time, it's like nothing is really, I've like, come of it too much. I haven't, on Chinese social media, I built up like 150,000 followers, but that doesn't pay your rent. And at the same time, I feel like I've involved myself in a bunch of projects which would the average Western person be okay with? Like, I don't know. If somebody watching on YouTube, is it morally right for me to be doing historical movies that are kind of promoting China's version of events? I don't really know. I mean, my thinking of that is, I do have a slight moral compass on that, is that I would think about the projects that I take, and they would often be, again, about acting as an American in the Korean War. And I would say this, genuinely, I don't know if America should have been in the Korean War. Should that war even have happened on any side? I'm not sure. But is it problematic that I'm involved and I'm promoting one side's view of that? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's a bit also kind of complicated because I'm from Northern Ireland myself, so I'm from a place which has been colonized by the Brits, and I've even, this adds another angle to it. Like recently I shot last year, I shot something like Ibasoling, 1840, which is about the Opium War, and I'm playing that and also showing the Chinese interpretation of the Brits during the Opium War. Some of it is true and fair, some of it's a bit biased, but again, should the Brits have been doing the Opium War? No. And so I think that's kind of fair. Funnily enough, I will actually, being a Northern Irish person in China is a bit of a strange identity, because I often find myself hiding behind the fact that I'm also Irish. Like, I will use my Britishness when it suits me. Someone will say like, oh, where are you from? To save time and to seem a bit fancy, I will say I'm from the UK. But then, honestly, I'm a little bit two-faced with this. If they're like, oh, well, you Brits have like a lot of our stuff in the British Museum. You have all of our, you know, gorgeous ancient trinkets. How about that? Then I will just say like, well, technically I'm from Northern Ireland, and that wasn't anything that we did, and we're still waiting for our country to be given our freedom. When we get that, I'll ask about your odds and ends, not odds and ends, but your cultural relics. The other thing which has changed recently is the bread and butter of actors in China has been the gaming ads. So you may have seen this. There are these slots ads in particular that are made in China, and then they want to promote it for the Western audience, so they will find foreigners. They will even go to outrageous attempts to like avoid showing that they're in China. So like if they were shooting here, they would cover up this sign that has Chinese characters right on the side here. They would cover that. So yeah, they try to Westernize it and then export it out of China. And for myself, a little bit, I would get these kind of gigs, which again is also morally a bit dodgy, right? You know, you're kind of like, oh, I'm living my dream of being an actor in China, but then to fund that, I have to engage in morally grey stuff like shooting propaganda movies, like shooting ads for gambling apps. And if you're willing to judge me, honestly do. There was particularly, I really struggled with this, much more than my friends to be honest, where there was one rule and they would say to me like, we will pay you 500, 600 pounds every day. You can work this job for like 3 days a week and like make great money. And my friends were like, yeah, they were all like snapping up at these jobs. And I was like, oh, is that morally okay? What if I get someone, you know, hooked on a gambling app and whatever? And then of course, months go by when I don't have a job and I'm like, okay, fuck it, what am I thinking? If I don't do it, someone else will. I go back to the guy and say, oh no, someone else is doing that. Someone else is doing the role. So I've kind of like, a little bit like with the propaganda movies, I both neither had my cake or eaten it, or I've fallen between the two stools of selling your soul but not getting much for it, which feels a little bit a synopsis for my acting career in China. But at the same time, you know, whenever I was a kid, it was a dream for me to be a paid actor in China, and I've done that, and I have those achievements. So that's quite cool, and I've forged a different path, and I've just avoided a 9-to-5 job. I mean, genuinely, I've been here 10 years in China, and I've almost never worked a 9-to-5 job. I've just been able to be freelancer, but make more money than if I'd done English teaching. So China has really given me that American dream, ironically, here in China. But I'm aware that that is only possible because of kind of a fucked up, you know, economic leverage where you earn, you know, there's fewer people who can do that kind of work, who are white, who have acting skills, who speak English and Chinese, so you're able to get the jobs. And then the money that you earn is also leveraged because it goes further, because you're ordering a takeaway and the economic incentives are such that there's a lot of people who could do the delivery job. The restaurants are really compressed down and experience a lot of competition pressures. So I make decent money and then it goes quite far because of currency and market supply. So it's been I've had a lot of unfair privilege, to be honest, as a foreigner in China. And it feels like the chicken's coming home to roost with, you know, a lot of the movies that I get, they're based on these, you know, propaganda, big history movies, right? One aspect is last year was a huge anniversary, so there's a lot that came out then, not so much now, and they're funded by a government whose purses are kind of tightened at the moment, you know. They're, you know, like a lot of countries, they're experiencing a bit of economy isn't what it was, and they, I think, from the roles which or the lack of that I'm getting down or hearing about through the grapevines, are less and less, frankly, because their marketing budget has decreased as they, you know, we know what happened with the housing market with their internal demand has dropped. Chinese people spend a lot less money, to be honest. If you compare to America, people will, or the West, they spend a lot of the money. People here are conservative, financially conservative too. So where in the West we've had, if I can say we still, right? I guess I can. I'm from there. Where they had inflation, where you're still paycheck to paycheck and you're spending it. We've had deflation here, where things are getting cheaper and cheaper because people spend less. And they're spending less on movie tickets. So then things like what I do, these movies are kind of dying down. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm saying all this stuff. I have 22 subscribers. I could almost name each of them on YouTube. So I may be literally screaming into the void. I don't know if anybody cares, or if they have like a tiny little violin for, oh yeah, you're the white boy who went to China and had all this privilege, and now it's like you sold your soul. Feel free to laugh at me, genuinely. That's how I've got through this whole weird experience. So yeah, sob for the the Lao Wai who's struggling out here in China. I do have it better than a lot of folks, and I feel like I don't know what else to kind of say about that, but I'm going to be posting more videos about my stories as an actor in China. I'm going to be interviewing my friends who are actors out here. I'm going to be talking about the weird, you know, the different acting industry where getting a role, agents, that functions totally different to how it does in the West, where you have your totally above board, on paper 20% that they get. It's not quite how things work in the Wild East. So there's all that. So yeah, stay tuned if you're interested in the real life of a actor in China. Subscribe if you like.